Now, let's move on to our keynote speech this morning. We have also somebody very special to give us our opening remarks. All right, in 2005, he held the same post under the administration of the then President Gloria Arroyo, which is the Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship.
He is the Chief Executive Officer and President of Food and Beverage Company RFM Corporation.
Please welcome Secretary Joey Concepcion.
Good morning. You still sound sleepy. Good morning. How many of you are below 35 years old? So Maria, we're the oddball here, and Jopin. It's great to be with people like you. I remember the time when I started at the age of 20 years old, a brick-and-mortar business. And it was the first cotton candy cart that I did. It was in Fiesta Carnival. I don't think any of you were born yet. And that inspiration really started because, you know, my parents and my grandfather were entrepreneurs, and somehow their success inspired me. And I remember the very first experience of selling that first cotton candy, which was an extra large cotton candy then, and was unique at that point in time. And making your first buck, you know, you feel so happy, accomplished. That was the first time I ever started something on my own. Today, so many years after, I'm not going to tell you my age, I've done quite a number of things that did very well, and I've done also a number of things that failed. And I always tell many of the young generation is never fear to fail. Because if you fear to fail, you will never be successful. Because you will never attempt to do anything. Many of you, I'm sure, come from good schools. Many of you are hopefully average or above average students. But that doesn't mean having high grades or being top of your class guarantees you success in life. It definitely helps, but it is not a guarantee. What kind of person you are, the values you have, the traits that hopefully your parents passed on to you growing up. This, to me, lays the greatest fundamental foundation of people who succeed in life. Never be a pessimist. It's always good to be an optimist, even when faced with the biggest challenges in our life. That is sometimes difficult. In the past, when we had martial law under dictatorship and we moved on to many problems, trying to be an optimist was difficult. But there were many entrepreneurs there then who were optimistic. And you see them today. People like Henry C., John Gokaway, and so many others out there invested even when the times were the most challenging. And in fact, it is when the times that are most challenging that presents the greatest opportunity. There would be no Jollibee, no SM, no, none of this if our economy was so robust many, many, many years ago, because these multinationals would have come to the Philippines. And definitely many of our local brands would have a difficult time challenging these huge corporations. So that presented so much opportunity. Today, I find myself, aside from running our corporation, which is an ice cream company, a very dominant ice cream company today. And again, that's an example of challenging the largest ice cream company then, way back. One would have been a fool to challenge the largest brand, then Magnolia. I was very young, I was in my 30s, but I was not scared. And together with my brother, I acquired the brand, and I asked him to help build the brand. Then, today, after so much work and effort, it has been the largest ice cream company. What I'm sharing with you is what it needs to become successful. Perseverance, passion, optimism are very important traits. The right mindset. And yes, it is going to be difficult. Nobody said life is easy. Nobody said that graduating with honors guarantees you success. It's not the case. And in fact, if you were to look at many of the successful entrepreneurs in the Philippines, many of them are not even college graduates. It doesn't give you reason not to finish school. But what I'm trying to say is that you have to have the right character to be successful. Surround yourself with the right friends. You cannot surround yourself with people who say, this country is not getting anywhere. And even if it's not getting anywhere, you can do something about it. You can do your own thing, take advantage, identify problems, and in problems, there are always opportunities. In the last 13 years, I started the foundation, the Philippine Center for Entrepreneurship. We have been basically helping many of our small entrepreneurs, our micro, small, and basically medium enterprises. Go Negosyo is the brand we used back then, and today it has consistently been out there focusing on this sector that comprises 99.6% of the Philippine business community. In other words, our small entrepreneurs here in the Philippines is the largest. It's 99.6. People of the large companies like ourselves comprise only 0.4% of the entire business community if you were to include these micro entrepreneurs. And we should, because I started as a micro entrepreneur when I started my cotton candy shop many years back. Everybody starts small. It's hard to find somebody who automatically becomes big overnight. We basically still live in what I call a brick and mortar environment. In other words, I will explain later on what is the future. But today, the brick and mortar is the brands that you see in the supermarkets, the shopping centers, the Jollibees, and all of that. That is the current business enterprises existing in the Philippines today. Many of them are in the sari-sari stores, retails, palenques, dress shops, and all these retail stores, restaurants that you see. That is what it is today. But there is a new opportunity for many of you. Aside from, being in a restaurant business or whatever your skill is, and you are able to convert it one day to a business, that is the current and will remain for quite some time. But the future for many of you in this room is basically the digital economy that is growing. The tech space, whether it's robotics, AI, whatever, that is your advantage. And especially the digital economy because you understand it more than we, who are above 50 to the 70, 80-year generation. You and my kids basically are not scared of playing around with gadgets, trying to understand how to operate an app, understanding many of these new technologies that are coming faster than we think it is. And I'm amazed. In fact, if I were younger, it would be really a lot more fun because I remember the days when having to send a memo to a executive. You have to type it, and you have to look for a messenger, and he would hand carry that to your executives and walk from office to office. Gone are those days. We use Viber, WhatsApp, SMS. So technology has really changed and increased the speed of doing business, creating ideas. And that is your advantage. In the brick-and-mortar business, for example, if you are to start a new brand today and bring it to the supermarket, the challenge for many of our micro and small entrepreneurs are extremely high because of the barriers to entry. The cost of distribution, advertising a product is extremely, extremely expensive. And not many can succeed. There are some who have succeeded. People like CDO, McKinney, these local brands are able to penetrate. But there are millions of micro and small entrepreneurs out there. So my challenge really today as working for this administration is to help many of them. And how? Basically, we are focusing on what we call the 3 M's: mentorship, money, and market. And I'm sure the model here is the same. Mentorship is very powerful. You know that. You're in good schools, you're being mentored by teachers, you're being mentored here by Rappler, and even a mentor that's assigned to you. I was mentored by my parents, my father specifically, and over time, different mentors came along my way. And even until to this very day, I always look for a mentor to guide me. Some of them we have to pay to guide us. So mentorship is a very powerful tool. And in our foundation in Go Negosyo, together with the Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Agriculture, we are pushing for a massive mentorship program for many of our small entrepreneurs. We have events for the youth that deal with only mindset first, really inspiring them and teaching them the proper mindset, not only in life. Whether you become an entrepreneur or you work for somebody else, it's the same mindset that you need to be successful. And you take inspiration from all of these large founders of these conglomerates that we see today. They have the same values and principles that have brought them to where they are. So that is the power of mentorship. And we are going to do something about it by really helping. And today we have 450 mentors actively helping with the Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of Agriculture. And that will further increase. As we celebrate this year with ASEAN, I'm sure many of you still don't understand what ASEAN is all about. I never did till I was asked to be the chair. But it is, if you don't know, it's composed of 10 countries. No? We're supposed to be helping each other. And we've now created, and will be creating, the largest mentorship pool within the 10 countries. So imagine Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, pooling 100. So we'll have 2,000 mentors. So when we need speakers to mentor people like you, we can call on them to come and help and guide and mentor. That's the power of mentorship. And believe me, you will always need a mentor. You have to seek advice. If you have a business idea, you have to seek advice. Don't think you know all. Always test your ideas. That's important. The next area is money. I know when you have your idea, okay, who's going to lend you? Rappler is going to lend you. I heard they're going to fund some of you. Or eventually, if you have a great idea, you definitely will find a funder. In the tech space, it's a different story. You have BCs. But in the brick and mortar business, many of our sari-sari stores or our little micro entrepreneurs, especially in agri, they have the biggest challenge. And the biggest challenge really is sourcing collateral to be able to borrow money. Unfortunately, banks require collateral. Unless they get money, how can they move into that idea? How can they start the business? How can they expand their business? How can they grow the business? So we're praying that large banks really develop a conduit to lending our small entrepreneurs. And how is that? Buying maybe rural banks, engaging with microfinance institutions, and many others out there. So that sector, that money problem, as I work with government and the private sector, that is my mission, to really push for what we call inclusive financing. To fintech down the road, as more and more people get into it, hopefully it works, more and more people will be able to borrow money. Things like GCash and kasama ka o PLDT, I don't know if I've got the word right, but these formats of fintech hopefully will enable more money lending with no collateral, just basically on your track record of payment, how bankable you really are. And the last really is the market. Why is the market important? You may have a good mentor, so you have a good business model. You may be funded, but you will not be funded if the banks don't understand what your business model is, because you don't have a market. So identifying your market is critical. Whether you're in the brick and mortar business, let's say you put up a restaurant, understanding your market, whether you're catering to the middle class or the mass-based market, and defining that model is very important. Sometimes, as a small entrepreneur, it's very hard to be part. So what I'm calling today is large enterprises such as us should embrace our micro and small entrepreneurs to be part of our ecosystem. That is very important. It is time that large corporations, that 0.4%, really practice inclusive growth. And yes, it is happening slowly, but it has to happen faster, because this President Duterte, won on the basis of inclusivity. Many people in the past, despite our country being rated as an investment-grade country, the people didn't vote for those of the previous administration, who did well. We became investment-grade. But why? Because many out there, many of the micro and small who had no money to be able to invest in bonds, stocks, real estate, or really fund their business, did not and were not part of that growing economy. So, inclusive growth is really important. It's not going to be easy, because it will take a lot from the heart of many of these large corporations to embrace it, including myself. I've done this for the last 12 years. I attend events, even on a Saturday. I was telling Maria I was supposed to leave with the family for a vacation because our 2 weeks of ASEAN was really tiring. But when the slogan of greater good was shared, I said, this is something that I have to speak. You will have the biggest advantage with the growing digital economy, e-commerce space. That is the opportunity that all of you in this room have. You don't have the fear to experiment. The penetration level of smartphones are moving very fast. And more people are so dependent on smartphones. Identifying a problem gives you an opportunity. And yes, you don't need to be in the brick and mortar space. You can develop a business model on the digital space. Create a marketplace for our entrepreneurs. What Uber, Grab has done, it has created so many entrepreneurs owning their own cars. Create an application on on a marketplace for services so that our plumbers, electricians, our house help can be able to access the marketplace and present their service. And they don't need to advertise because performance gives them better ratings and people hire them. And you know how it works with Uber, Grab, etc. So the opportunities are countless, and all of the 4 finalists here, or the winners, have that great opportunity. And all of you who didn't even win or who are thinking of that idea, continue to think of that idea. Move around, read, search the internet, and one day you will just find that right time when you can start to move. So I wish all of you the best of luck. And my promise is that in these 5 years that I'm working with the President as an advisor, I am going to really push for a greater inclusive growth and shared prosperity for all, and no one being left behind. Thank you.